Have you noticed subtle changes in someone you love over the past year? Things that just don't seem right, but you can't quite put your finger on them. Most people assume that death in old age happens suddenly, but the truth is, the body often gives us quiet warnings months or even a year before life reaches its final stage. Unfortunately, many of us miss these signs because they seem small at first, and by the time we recognize them, it's too late to prepare. In this video, we're going to discuss 5 key signs that often appear a year before an elderly person passes away. Signs that could easily be overlooked or brushed off as just aging. These signs are often subtle at first, but understanding them can provide you with the emotional clarity and practical tools to make the most of the time you have left with your loved one. Why is this video crucial for you? Recognizing these signs early can help you provide better care, create meaningful memories, and ensure that your loved one's final stage of life is filled with comfort, dignity, and peace. By watching until the end, you'll learn how to navigate these changes with compassion and clarity, ensuring you're not caught off guard, but instead empowered to make the best decisions. This knowledge can bring peace of mind and help you offer the love and support your family member needs during their most vulnerable time. Stay with us. Understanding these 5 signs is more than just being aware. It's about making the remaining moments as beautiful and meaningful as possible. You won't want to miss these insights that can make all the difference. If you're not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me. And if you enjoy this video, you can help me continue spreading these valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Significant weight loss. One of the earliest and most undeniable signs that someone may be approaching the final chapter of their life is unintentional weight loss. At first, it may seem like nothing more than a small shift, a belt that suddenly needs tightening, clothes that hang a little looser than before, or a lack of appetite that slowly creeps in. These might be dismissed as just part of aging, a natural consequence of getting older. But what we often fail to recognize is that this gradual weight loss, especially when it happens without any conscious effort, is rarely a benign sign. It's a message from the body, a message that says things are beginning to change in ways much deeper than we might want to admit. The body may no longer be absorbing nutrients as effectively, muscle mass starts to diminish, and essential bodily systems begin to slow down. Aging does naturally lead to some loss of muscle, but when this process accelerates, it's a clear signal that something is wrong. The body might be struggling to digest food properly, or it may no longer process protein in a way that supports muscle maintenance. This leads to muscle wasting, which isn't just a physical concern. It affects the core of a person's independence and strength. The loss of muscle mass weakens the body, making movement more difficult, increasing the risk of falls, and perhaps most alarmingly, compromising the immune system. A body that can no longer function as it once did becomes more susceptible to infections and illnesses, making the entire system more vulnerable. Appetite changes also play a significant role in this weight loss. Many older adults simply don't experience hunger the way they once did. Their sense of taste dulls, and food no longer holds the same enjoyment it once did. Meals become less about nourishment and more about obligation. For some, this results in skipping meals or eating smaller portions, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes not caring. This isn't just a passing phase. It's a physiological change as the body starts to recognize that its energy reserves are dwindling. When this happens, the signals to the brain telling us to eat grow quieter and less frequent. What follows is a lack of energy, diminished strength, and a gradual decline in overall health that no amount of coaxing or encouraging can truly stop. Underneath it all, There may also be medical conditions contributing to this weight loss. Diseases like cancer, heart failure, or kidney disease often progress without showing obvious signs until much later. Even conditions such as depression or cognitive decline can lead to reduced eating and contribute to a cycle of weight loss. These illnesses don't just take a toll on the body, they quietly chip away at the mind, causing confusion, despair, and withdrawal. The body is simply no longer able to sustain itself the way it used to. Some families try to solve the problem by urging their loved ones to eat more, offering their favorite foods, or supplementing meals with protein shakes. While these efforts come from a place of love, if the weight continues to decline despite these actions, it's essential to recognize that the issue isn't just about diet. It's the body preparing for something deeper, a transition that can't be avoided. At this stage, pushing for larger meals may not yield the desired results. Instead, the focus should shift to comfort, offering easy-to-eat foods, prioritizing hydration, and creating moments of warmth and care that give the person peace of mind. If you see significant weight loss in an elderly loved one, especially if they're eating less, feeling weaker, or struggling to stay active, it's time to stop and listen. This isn't just about appearance. It's the body sending a profound message. Understanding this message now with empathy and compassion can help guide you through the difficult journey ahead. It allows you to appreciate and cherish the remaining moments with clarity, knowing that the time we have together is precious beyond measure. We must be present and make each moment count, not out of fear, but out of love and respect for the path that's unfolding. Number 2, extreme fatigue and weakness. One of the most heart-wrenching signs in the year leading up to the end of life is an overwhelming, unrelenting fatigue. This isn't the kind of tiredness that can be remedied by a good night's sleep. It's a deep, all-consuming exhaustion that remains despite rest. It's not about feeling a bit worn out after a busy day. It's a weariness that feels rooted deep in the bones. Even the simplest tasks can suddenly become monumental. Rising from bed takes every ounce of effort. A walk across the room feels like a marathon, and everyday activities that once felt like second nature, like cooking, dressing, or even holding a conversation, now drain the person to their core. This profound fatigue isn't merely a symptom of aging. It's a sign that the body is working hard to conserve what little energy it has left. As organ function slows, the body begins to prioritize what's most essential. The heart no longer pumps as efficiently, circulation weakens, and muscles aren't receiving the oxygen they once did. As this happens, those in their final months begin to feel weaker, unsteady, and less capable of sustaining the activities they once enjoyed. Metabolic slowdown also plays a significant role. The body, once efficient at using energy, now shifts its focus towards self-preservation. Instead of fueling movement, energy is diverted to keeping vital organs functioning. This is why many elderly individuals in decline may need to sleep more, finding themselves unable to stay awake for long periods or needing multiple naps throughout the day. It's as if the body has decided that its last reserves of energy should be saved, not for activity, but for survival. The emotional toll of this fatigue is perhaps the most devastating aspect. Seniors who once took pride in their independence begin to feel frustrated, perhaps even embarrassed, by their inability to do the things they once did with ease. They might withdraw from conversations, shy away from social interactions, or stop engaging in hobbies, not because they have lost interest, but because their bodies can no longer support their passions. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know you're still here with me. This withdrawal often leads to isolation, and isolation, as we know, accelerates the decline. Watching someone you love go from active and engaged to withdrawn and exhausted is gut-wrenching. As a family member, you may feel helpless, unsure how to help, or how to fill the silence that now lingers in the room. It's easy to assume they're just being lazy or that they need to push through it, but the reality is, Pushing them won't help. The body is speaking, and it's vital to listen. What's most important in these moments is acknowledging their limits, allowing them the space and time to rest and find comfort in stillness. No amount of activity will change the course of what's happening. Instead, focus on cherishing the conversations that can still happen and creating moments of calm and peace. It's about making their remaining days as comfortable as possible, free from the pressure of needing to do something. In the end, what matters is not what they can do, but how they feel, whether they feel loved, understood, and supported. When all else fades, the love we give and the care we provide are what leave the deepest mark. Number 3, increased cognitive confusion or withdrawal. As we approach the final stages of life, the mind undergoes some truly heartbreaking transformations. It's as if the person you've known for so long, who once possessed an engaging sharpness, starts to slowly slip away. It's not just forgetfulness, but a gradual unraveling that's hard to watch and even harder to understand. The person who once remembered everything, from the smallest details to the most cherished memories, may now struggle to recall names, faces, or even the events that happened just yesterday. Their once clear thoughts might now feel like an endless maze of confusion. This isn't just a fleeting moment of forgetfulness. It's something far more profound and emotional. For those witnessing this change in a loved one, it can feel like a quiet grief. Imagine watching someone so full of life and knowledge lose their ability to connect to the very things that used to define them. Conversations become harder to follow, and their presence in familiar places seems overshadowed by an increasing sense of disorientation. They may seem unaware of their surroundings or get lost in places they once knew like the back of their hand. Where they were once lively and engaged, they may now withdraw, becoming quieter and more detached. That quietness isn't because they don't care. It's because the mind is no longer able to process the emotions and connections it once did so effortlessly. This subtle cognitive decline is an emotional journey for both the person experiencing it and their loved ones. It's not simply a phase of forgetfulness. It's a sign that the mind is slowly pulling away as the body prepares for the inevitable. You may witness them getting lost in moments of lucidity, only to fade back into confusion just as quickly. It's as though their mind is slipping in and out of time, leaving them and us in a state of helplessness. But perhaps the most devastating part of this process is the emotional withdrawal. It's like the person who once had the energy to light up a room is now retreating into themselves, withdrawing from social interactions that once brought them joy. They may sit in silence, perhaps looking out the window, lost in their thoughts. But it's not a choice. Their brain simply no longer processes engagement in the same way. The quiet is a result of their mind struggling to keep up, not a reflection of a lack of love or care for their family. Conversations become tiring and overwhelming, often leaving them exhausted and agitated. Familiar places may no longer feel safe, and the social interactions they once thrived on may now feel burdensome. This is no longer the person you once knew, and yet it still is. Beneath the surface of confusion and withdrawal, they're still the same person, just one whose mind and emotions are no longer able to keep pace with their body. Watching someone you love drift away mentally can feel like the slowest, most painful kind of loss. It's as if you're losing them, bit by bit, but they're still physically there, and that makes it harder to bear. The emotional toll on family members and loved ones who watch this transformation is immense. They may feel helpless, frustrated, and grief-stricken, watching someone they love lose touch with reality in ways they can't control. The truth is, it's not that your loved one doesn't want to engage. It's that their mind and body are no longer cooperating. They're fighting a battle that's difficult to understand. In these moments, the best thing you can do is meet them where they are. Approach them with kindness and patience, Don't try to force them back into a conversation they can't follow, or expect them to respond like they used to. Instead, offer comfort with your presence, speak softly, provide reassurance, and know that even in their silence, they can still feel your love. It's crucial to recognize these changes early and understand that this is the body and mind's natural process of preparing for the final transition. Cherish the quiet moments and create an environment that's peaceful and safe. Though their words may fade, your presence will still speak volumes. The love you offer in these final stages, even without words, will be felt deep in their soul. Because in the end, love transcends memory. And even when cognitive clarity fades, your love will be the one thing that endures. Number 4. Frequent infections and slow healing. As the body approaches its final stage, it becomes more susceptible to the most basic physical challenges, ones that, in their younger years, would have been easily fought off. It's as though the body's defenses, once strong and resilient, begin to wane. You might notice that someone who never caught colds or dealt with minor infections is now constantly battling something, be it a cough, a fever, or a simple wound that refuses to heal. These aren't just minor annoyances. They're glaring signs that the body is no longer capable of fighting the way it once did. For family members, watching this can be a deeply frustrating experience. You may find yourself asking, why won't they heal like they used to? The answer lies in the body's slowing systems. The immune system, which once responded quickly and effectively to threats, is no longer able to mount the same defense. Repeated infections, like pneumonia or urinary tract infections, become more common, and wounds that would have healed in days now take weeks, or even longer. It's heartbreaking to see someone you love struggle with something as simple as a sore or bruise that refuses to heal, a clear reminder of the fragility of life. As the body's circulation slows and organ function declines, even the simplest treatments become less effective. Antibiotics, which once worked wonders, may seem almost powerless, leaving your loved one in a constant cycle of treatment that never seems to bring relief. It's as if the body, once so full of vitality, has become a battleground where even the smallest injury can become a much larger issue. It's a cruel reminder that the body is slowly giving in, no longer able to fight back like it once could. But what truly breaks the heart is that infections in the elderly often don't look the way we expect. They don't come with obvious symptoms like fever or chills. Instead, the signs are subtler: an increase in confusion, a loss of appetite, or a quiet weariness that lingers long after the infection should have cleared. This can make it difficult for families to recognize that something is wrong until it's too late. It's easy to become fixated on curing these infections, to push for more rounds of medication, hoping for a miracle. But sometimes, the miracle lies not in the cure, but in the comfort. The focus shifts from curing to comforting, to ensuring that your loved one feels loved and cared for in their final days. Hydration, rest, and gentle care become more important than fighting an infection that may never fully go away. This process isn't easy to accept. Watching someone you love battle illness after illness can feel like an endless cycle of loss. But it's also a time to show them grace, compassion, and patience. In their final stages, what they need most is your love, your comfort, and your presence, not just medical intervention. It's the quiet moments of tenderness, the soft touch on their hand, the reassurance that they're not alone, that will truly make a difference in their well-being. Because in the end, it's not the wounds or the infections that define their journey. It's the love and care they receive along the way. Number 5. Major changes in breathing or circulation. As the body edges closer to its final moments, one of the most poignant and unmistakable signs is a change in breathing patterns and circulation. These changes often arrive slowly and quietly at first, like an unspoken whisper, before growing louder and more frequent. For a loved one, it's heart-wrenching to witness these shifts, knowing they mark the inevitable slowing down of life. You may begin to notice their breath becoming shallower, slower, or even interrupted with pauses between each inhale. At times, it may feel like their breathing is labored or irregular, sometimes quick and shallow, then at other times slow and deep, leaving you with an unsettling feeling of helplessness. One of the most significant changes can be the onset of a gentle, almost rhythmic breathing pattern called Cheney-Stokes respiration, which alternates between deep, rapid breaths followed by long, silent pauses. While this may seem alarming at first, it's simply a natural response from the body as it shifts into a different phase of life. And while this may begin subtly, over time, it becomes more pronounced. You may find yourself watching helplessly as these cycles become longer and more frequent. It's hard to ignore the emotional weight of each pause, each shallow breath, as if the body is preparing for rest. Alongside the changes in breathing, circulation also weakens, leaving the extremities cold and distant. Hands, feet, and even the nose or ears may feel icy to the touch, as if the warmth of life is fading away. The skin can turn pale, almost ghostly, or take on a bluish tint, particularly around the fingers and toes. This is the body's way of prioritizing the flow of blood to the vital organs, a clear signal that the heart is no longer pumping as it once did. For family members, it's hard to watch someone you love become distant in such a physical way. But it's important to remember that these signs are a natural part of the process, not something that can be reversed, but something to accept with grace. Even the simplest movements can leave them winded. A small shift in position, sitting up or speaking, might cause them to struggle for breath. It's heartbreaking when someone who once moved with ease and grace now finds themselves gasping for air or stopping mid-sentence to catch their breath. Once ordinary tasks, like walking across the room, can feel like mountains to climb, and the frustration mixed with resignation is almost unbearable. It's as though they're being held back by a force they cannot control. And you, the caregiver, feel powerless to ease the weight. In some cases, fluid builds up in the lungs, making every breath more difficult to take. The sound of a persistent cough or the gurgling noise that accompanies each breath is a terrifying reminder of the fragility of life. What might be dismissed as a common cold in a younger person is often a sign of the weakening of the lungs in the elderly. As the body struggles to breathe, lying flat may become intolerable, and they may seek comfort by sitting up, propped on pillows, or lying in a recliner. The simple act of breathing, so often taken for granted, becomes an exhausting challenge. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know you're still here with me. For family members, witnessing these changes is heart-wrenching. There's a deep sense of helplessness, of wanting to offer more than what you're able to provide. You may feel the urge to encourage them to breathe more deeply, to check on them every few minutes to make sure they're comfortable. But there's a profound truth to accept here. Sometimes, there's no quick fix for what's happening. Instead of focusing on reversing the inevitable, the priority must shift to making their remaining time as peaceful and comfortable as possible. Simple comforts, like keeping the room cool, using a humidifier, or offering small sips of water, can make a world of difference. But ultimately, what they need most is your presence, your love, and your acceptance. Medications or oxygen therapy may provide some relief, but the focus will increasingly shift toward comfort rather than correction. If you notice these signs, changes in breathing, cold hands and feet, or a bluish tint to the skin, pay attention. They're not to be feared, but understood as signals that the body is conserving energy, slowing down in a quiet, dignified manner. It's a time to be there for them, to offer reassurance, and to create an environment where they feel safe and loved, where they know they're not alone. Final thoughts. As we come to the end of this discussion, I encourage you to reflect on the things we've covered: drastic weight loss, overwhelming fatigue, cognitive decline, frequent infections, and shifts in breathing and circulation. These are the 5 key signs that may appear in the year leading up to an elderly person's passing. These changes may come gradually and may not be immediately noticeable, but when they do, they're unmistakable. It's easy to ignore the subtle signs at first, to hope they'll pass, but eventually, the truth becomes undeniable. For many families, these changes are difficult to accept. It's only natural to want to fight against them, to encourage a loved one to eat more, to push them to move more, to hold on to life with all your might. But the reality is, sometimes the best thing we can do is honor what their body is telling us. We can't reverse the inevitable, but we can make their remaining time as peaceful, comfortable, and meaningful as possible. Understanding these signs isn't about fearing the end of life. It's about preparing for it. Recognizing the changes early gives you the chance to make informed decisions, offer the best care, and ensure that your loved one's final months are filled with love, dignity, and peace. This is a time to cherish every moment, to share stories, and to let them know they're valued and loved, that they haven't lived in vain, and that they're not alone. As we reflect on the signs and changes that come in the final stages of life, we hope today's discussion has offered you not only understanding, but also peace and clarity. The journey of life is filled with moments of love, hardship, and ultimately, the deep acceptance of life's natural rhythms. It's important to remember that recognizing these changes in our loved ones allows us to offer them comfort, dignity, and love during their final moments. Now, let's take a moment to reflect on what you've learned so far. What one thing stood out to you the most today? What will you bring into practice in your own life or in the way you care for others? We'd love to hear from you. Please share in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content that helps you navigate life with wisdom, compassion, and grace. Thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to continuing this journey together.